and welcome to the Jal Parava Podcast. I'm Linda Robbins,
Oh,
and this is
yeah, Justbly here again. Lovely to be here again.
yeah. We've had a bit of a break during the summer, but we're now back on task now to do more podcasts, and we're doing a podcast today all about Jal Parava. Now, Jasper, could you explain what Jal Parava means?
Yeah, it's a very important part of the Romani culture in a way because it's, well, the more spiritual side, shall we say, because it really means transformation or exchange. I'll break it down. The Jal part is the cycle of the sun. So we consider that we humans move with the cycle of the sun through the seasons. And the Parava word means exchange or change. It means transformation. So technically what it means is that you're travelling with the natural cycles and you are moving through changes in your life in accordance with the natural cycles. So, I mean, it's quite involved in some ways, and you have to learn more about it, what the actual Jal structure means. But technically, it means that you're moving through the spring elements and the summer elements and the autumn elements or the fall elements if you're in America, and the winter elements. And all these elements have qualities to them. So, in a nutshell, you're moving from one to the other with anything you encounter in life. And that can be anything really. That can be something simple to something dramatic. We all go through changes all the time. So I suppose it's really helping us to become aware of these changes and aware of this cycle a little more within us, but allow those changes to happen.
Now, with the shamanic counselling course, which of course we are about to sort of reconfigure over the next year or so now, it always tends to start in September. So it's a time of change. Why do you prefer to start it in the September and people start their journey with Jal Parava then?
I think, well, I think sometimes if we were natural and we were travelling about as we used to do as nomads, then we would probably work more in accordance with the seasons. But a lot of the time I try to, as much as possible, to get people to go in line with what we can do in our current civilized life. So I suppose really you could start a course like we do with the shamanic course anywhere really, because I suppose I'm going back to the earlier times to try and start it so that we start with something that puts us at the beginning. And I suppose that's quite important for us to see, that we start at the beginning, whatever is going on in our lives, that we take it right back to the beginning and then work out what we can do with the transformation that we're doing. The winter solstice is the beginning of the Jal year, and it's also the end of the Jal year. So when we're thinking about Jal Parava, we're sort of working our way into the qualities of the winter solstice so that we run round that whole course of a year. And that's why I often start my courses close to the winter solstice in mid-December. It's a bit difficult when we do the course because, people have crazy lives and they rush about doing different things. So starting it somewhere, anywhere, I suppose, is a good thing to do, really, so that we understand what we can bring into our lives today with really an element of the culture that's really very old.
People, as we've noticed through the past 2 years that I've been training with you, have a lot of problems with Jal Parava. Have you got any thoughts on maybe why people have the... I've got thoughts on it, but maybe if we hear from you first of all.
I think that's what sums it up. No.
Yeah.
I think in a nutshell, we're living in a time when problems are rife We've got lots of problems going on, but I think the most important thing is that we no longer know how to deal with them. I think problems have got worse and worse for us. We've got this huge inner world that collects problems. We tend to store them. And so when we come to a course like the kind of courses I run, which if you're training to be a counsellor of any kind, I think you need to understand what's going on inside you. So when we come to something that is suggesting that you look at those problems, try to work them out, and try to work yourself out, it's tough, it's difficult. But I think the majority of people today don't actually know how to look at those problems, and they don't know what's on the other side of them. Because when we have something that's going on that pulls us apart, tears us inside out, and then we start storing it, we lose track of how to deal with it, because it sort of festers inside. I think that's what we've got to be careful of. And then before long, before we know it, we can become a little bit of a resentful person, a bitter person. And then we've got these layers that start to form. So we've got to take them right back to the beginning. And when we get right back to the beginning, often there's just a load of sadness. There's just a load of grief. There's just a load of anxiety, and on the top we've got all these other things which we can't deal with because we won't deal with them. Only take it back and we can find that sadness. And the point is that when you're working with a Shavano like I am, I'm trying to find that. I'm not interested in all the layers so much, because I want to know how people feel inside. And if we can work at that and understand that, then hey presto, we've cracked it. But it's very difficult to get down to that, especially when you're doing a course like the kind of course we've been doing over the last couple of years. So yeah, difficult.
So I think that people get a little overwhelmed with the thought of dealing with issues that have been suppressed, as everybody does. And I think a lot of people are frightened of confronting the work that they have to do on themselves in order to become a shamanic counsellor, because you have to see yourself who you are.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are frightened that suddenly there's going to be this huge explosion and their whole world is going to fall apart. Well, it's not as dramatic as that. I mean, it can be, but it's not as like, you do get pulled apart. You do get to question yourself. You do mirror yourself. You really got to look at yourself, but it's not like a huge explosion. Sometimes it can be a tiny little thing, and it can be a massive falling away of the veil that's covered your eyes.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can describe it.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen some dramatic outcomes with people who have left the course because they've not realised that to become a shamanic counsellor, you have to look at yourself.
Yeah, you do. I think really you've hit upon something that's quite relevant for probably the majority of people when you say it's huge, it's dramatic, it's this big, like a volcanic eruption. I've had people actually describing it to me like that, and they'll say it's too ginormous for me to deal with. And as you say, it isn't really. It isn't really at all. It's I think
it is manageable.
Yes, it is manageable, and I think that's the result. When we say it's too big, that's the result of having held on to it and stored it for so long and built up the many layers. It's like it started off as a small molehill, shall we say. It started off as something small, and then we didn't deal with it, so another layer went on, and then another, and then another, until in the end we're looking up at this huge mountain. We're looking up at something that is so big, when really, if we narrow it down and we think about it, what the origin was, then we can actually dissolve that mountain. We can say, well, it's not about that at all, and it's about this smaller thing that was big at the time in my life, and it probably was, and we're not disregarding it by saying that, because it's something that cut us to the quick. It really hurt us. But if we build these mountains on top of it, then we're dealing with something else, and that's what makes us resentful. That's what makes us bitter. And moreover, when you come onto a course like we do, that is what makes you blame everyone else. You're going to point the finger because you're so scared to look at it yourself, and then you start, it's your fault, it's your fault, it's your fault, it's your fault, it's this fault, that fault, and it's not mine.
Yeah. And what people are forgetting is that as a trained medicine man, you're there to help them get through that.
Yeah, sure.
And instead, the opposite has happened. They've gone, well, it's your fault, Jasper, so I'm off.
It's always my fault. Yeah. It's classic, that, isn't it? It's classic to blame the person. I mean, any good therapist will probably understand this transference process, when they put everything into you, and then suddenly you ask them to address something that they don't want to address, and boy, all hell lets loose, and it's your fault. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but I am there to help. That's the whole point. And I do understand. I mean, for goodness sake, I've had my own ups and downs. I've had my own chronic grief and everything else in my own life. So, but I suppose really what I'm doing is I'm asking people to trust. And that is one of the biggest things that is difficult for them to do. They find it very difficult to trust. Why should they trust me? When you think about it, if they've just met me, they've got to get used to me. But once they see the way I work, and they listen to what I'm saying and hear where I'm coming from, then it should be possible to work yourself out. In any case, I think if you owe it to yourself to work yourself out, whoever you're with, wherever you are. I've known people who've almost done it on their own because they can't find somebody good enough to listen to what they're saying, and they've had to sort of almost do most of it on their own. So you do owe it to yourself to sort yourself out, and it's the best thing in the world. And if you don't do it here, oh boy, in my culture it says you're going to take it with you. You don't want to do that. Jal Parava must be acted out here.
I mean, my advice from having gone through it and continuously going through it, because it's not a process you stop doing, you're continuously working with Jal Parava. I think it's one of the best forms of finding out who you are genuinely, and becoming more comfortable within your own self.
Yeah.
And being of service and help to other people by learning who you are and accepting who you are, warts and all. Yeah,
that's it. That's true. There's nothing better, there's nothing more enriching in life, I think, to know who you are. And I think you need to see yourself as a friend as much as anything else. You've got to see that you're helping you just like you would help a dear friend if you wanted to do that. So and yes, there's no way you're going to help other people unless you can start to look at yourself and help yourself in the best way you possibly can. And also, I think the valuable experience you get through going through Jal Parava will set you up for anything that comes along. And I think one important thing that I always try to put across to people is that you often meet the same problem in your life. You say, oh, here it goes again. I always meet someone like this who does this. I always meet a narcissistic person. I always meet this, that, I always do this. And different experiences, relationships, family members, all sorts of things. Only learn about Jal Parava and be introduced to yourself, who you are, that rich person that you are, because everyone has that in them. And then you discover how you can manage those situations, and it can help to reduce the possibility of keep on meeting the same people or having the same experience over and over again. But moreover, you'll learn how to manage something, and it won't seem half as daunting when you can do that, when you learn to manage. That's what it does. So go through it, come out the other side. And you're a far more experienced, richer person. And yeah, there's only pluses, there's no negatives about Jal Parava, about finding yourself.
Yeah, I would endorse that. You and I have had a conversation recently. I'm in another situation where I've got a narcissistic person and I could spot it far quicker,
Yeah.
could work out, got my plan in action now of how to deal with it. Whereas before, I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
it's much
Yeah. Yeah.
going through that Jal Parava process and understanding and learning. It's now a case of, okay, I see you for what you are with this person, and I now know how to manage it better than I did the first time it happened to be with another person.
Yeah.
So, you're going to make mistakes, but
Yeah.
that's part of the learning process as well.
Yeah, it's
That is part of
absolutely.
Jal Parava.
Yeah, absolutely true. It's absolutely true. There's another thing that some people, the odd person, it's not everyone at all. Some people might say to me, supposing I've got these narcissistic qualities in myself, what do I do about that? It's no different. It's really the same. Jal Parava is Jal Parava. If you think you're someone who can be a little overbearing, or you've done something where you feel you've wounded someone, or you've managed something very badly and you didn't do it well at all. I don't know. It does happen occasionally, but I think you have an obligation to look at yourself. Of course, when we're talking about narcissism, we have to separate it out from narcissistic traits and narcissistic personality disorder. That's a totally different thing. Mm-hmm. I think most people today can exhibit narcissistic traits, but Jal Parava has a wonderful almost magical way of helping you to see what you're made of, and as you said before, it goes on all the way through your life, so it's not going to stop. So only start, and then you'll see what you're made of, see what corrections you can make, see where the imbalances are, etc. And just gradually, by degrees, you can become more of who you are. Just start now. That's the advice I think I'd have. Just start now, thinking about changing. Hold your hands up, say, I'm here to change. What do I need to do? And then you may find that some experiences will come your way. You might not really ask for them, but they'll come your way because they're there to teach you. So always value the experiences you get. There's always something to learn from all experiences we encounter. What a big thing it is, Jal Parava, and yet what a wonderful thing it is at the same time.
Absolutely. Okay, Jasper, that's wonderful. So everybody, we will be sending out some more podcasts. We've got lots of different topics to discuss, and we've got a little sketch coming up at some point as well with a certain person called Ben, which will be an interesting watch for everybody. So for the time being, please subscribe to the YouTube, Jasper's YouTube, have a listen in, have a look at the different podcasts. We've got 2 up already, and keep watching us.
Yeah.
And for the time being, thank you, Jasper. I'll speak to you again soon.
Okay. Bye-bye, everyone. Thanks for listening. Bye.